Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I wanted to say good morning to all the ladies and gentlemen that is coming into the room this morning. Breakfast of Champions, hosted by Marilyn Denise Coaching Services. Our lines open up at 5:30 every morning, Monday through Friday, with some good worship music by Miss Nene Houston. And then at 6, our guest speaker come on in the morning time and grace us with the word that, God, that message they want to give to us that God has laid in their heart. So go ahead and get your coffee, your breakfast, your hot chocolate, or whatever you need to come on in the morning time and just be blessed by the word this morning. Let's go ahead and open up the room in prayer. Father, I just want to thank you, my God, for just waking us up this morning, my God, covering us last night. Lord, I just want to thank you for just having your way with us, my God, rebuilding, removing, just making us over, Father. Lord, I just want to thank you, my God, for just your grace and your mercy. You give us new grace and new mercy every day, Father. Lord, I ask that you just continue to have your way in this room this morning, my God, with each one of the ladies, Father. You know where we're standing in need of, you know what we're praying about, Father. Lord, I ask if your will that these things be granted to us, Father. Lord, I ask that you just help us to work on us, Father, to make us a better person, my God, so we can be an influence to other people and help them, Father. Lord, I ask that you just have your way with Miss Marilyn, my God, as she downloading us, and Miss Sabrina, Father. Lord, I ask that you just speak through them, Father. Give us a word, my God. We know that word that we need, that rhema word, Father. Lord, I ask that you just have your way, Father, in the name of Jesus, I pray, amen. Again, Father, I'm sorry. Again, everyone, I just want to say thank you for coming into the room, listening, and who's going to be listening to the replays. I want to say welcome, 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 and just thank you. Y'all, we in for a powerful week this week. My weekend was real good this week. It was kind of chill, laid back, but nevertheless, it was good. Just rest. That's always good. So again, this week we start The People Factor by Dr. Moody. We've studied this book before, but never with a little twist. We're gonna have our speakers come on and they're gonna take it chapter by chapter and give their point of view and teach the word through the message that they receive when they read the chapters, and just let God unfold things through them to us. So this week, today, we're going to start out with Miss Marilyn. She's going to be chapter 1. You got to be you. The law of being real. And Miss Sabrina, she's going to come in speaking about chapter 7. What you don't know can hurt you. The law the law against secrets. So that's going to be real good. We're starting out today, tag teaming with Miss Marilyn and Miss Sabrina. And then Tuesday, we have Mr. Harlan. He's coming in on chapter 11. And I have you, he's going to be talking about you can't take him with you, knowing when and how to end unhealthy relationships. So that's going to be another good topic that he's coming, because he always come in with that twist, and he come on in and he just break it down for us. So I'm real excited about that. And then Wednesday we have Miss Joyce Lynn. She's coming in with chapter 4. It said release your past and embrace your future, and it's the law of letting go. And we all know we have to let go the past to welcome in the new. And And then Thursday, we have Miss Nancy. She's also coming in with chapter 4 with Release Your Past and Embrace Your Future, the law of letting go. And another time, I'm ready to see how she's, what she has to say on that. Because Miss Nancy, she's full of wisdom. And then on Friday, Miss Marilyn and Miss Cookie gonna come in on chapter 2 with healthy relationships must be a win-win, the law of mutual benefits. So y'all, we in for a powerful week. I hope everyone had got to receive the book or it's on the way, because it really is a good book, y'all. We have done this book before in Dream Builders, but I kind of read it on, after we had got done with it, and it's really a good book. It has some really good, has a really good message in there, and it just help you about how to know how to be in conversation with people and just with your day-to-day life. So we're in for a good treat. Y'all haven't been through this study with Miss Marilyn before. So anyone have anything to say? How was your weekend this morning? Just want to tell us about your weekend, or what do y'all think about the messages last week?
Good morning, beautiful. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Miss Marie.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's good you had some rest. I want to say I had a marvelous weekend this weekend. I got to spend some more time with my little grandbabies and my grandson, and that one is a character. All of them characters, so I enjoyed that. And then one of my youngest grandbaby, he's sick. His mom took him to the emergency room, and he has pneumonia. She took him Friday, so we're praying for him and everything. And he FaceTimed me though. He say, "Gmo, I'm okay. I am okay. You coming to get me anyway?" A little while. Okay, well, you better call me every day then. I said, all right, baby, I'll call you every day. And yesterday he said, "Gmo, I still went to church. I was at church all day. All day, Gmo." I said, "I was at church too, baby, all day long." So we had a really nice, uplifting conversation. Then he told me, "Well, I'm going to ride my bike tomorrow because I'm better now. God is good." I say, "Yeah, good, baby. God is good." I enjoyed that. And when I was at church yesterday, it was a beautiful Palm Sunday. I tell you, we had such a good time. You would have thought Jesus was coming down the aisle, because we praised him, and the young people praised him, and they drew pictures and in that Sunday school thing, and it was really, really a wonderful time. So I am still read up. I was read up with the good word. The good word was the man of God was speaking about how we were all lamed. He came out of Samuel, and he said we all lamed in some kind of way. Made me think about the people factor, because he was talking about Samuel and David in the book of Samuel, how David was king by now, and David was still looking for some of Jonathan's people, because him and Jonathan was good friends. And and he said they made a covenant between each other, and because they made that covenant, he was looking for somebody in the house of Saul that he could bless. And he found Jonathan's son, and he blessed him. And Jonathan's son at this time was lame. And so Jonathan's son even thought he was a dog, and he called himself a dead dog. But David still blessed him. And it made me think, because I have been reading the book, it made me think how, it does not matter what a person is going through, bless them. David gave him honors, because we don't know how people feel, and and I can't say his name, Mustafat or whatever. That's the little boy name. He felt like he wasn't worthy, but David told him, no, 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 no. Me and your daddy had a relationship. His daddy was dead, but he still found him. And he restored him. And that's what we are supposed to do as Christians, restore. I don't want to preach the sermon, girl, but it was good. Yeah, it was good. It was so good because it really made me think back to the chapters that I'm reading in this people factor, how we have to be more aware. And some people think that they're not worthy, but we all on an equal table. Because I'm just saying this part, then I'm gonna let you go. I know I'm talking a lot. I just, he set him down. He set him down. David set him down at the king's table. He set him down at the king's table and made him part of the family. And I thought about, I'm getting chills again. It was just like, God is gonna set us down. I got my reservation. You got your reservation, sis. I got my reservation at the table, and I was just thinking, wow, there's gonna be one time when we all gonna be sitting at the king's table because we're heirs and joint heirs. But David showed that compassion for someone that he didn't even know.
Yep.
And made him part of the family. And it was just, I'm still, like I said, I'm still enjoying that. I love that story anyway. And I just had a good time. I'm grateful for God for my grandson. He just picked up my spirits and it was just it was a good weekend. And I know because we on the air, our sister got through all that rain and I'm grateful to God. I was like, oh Lord, I got to praying. I said, but I know God is able. And so I'm just excited. Everybody's here and we're going to have a powerful week. And you keep that smile going and I'm going to let somebody else talk about that.
Thank you for sharing that, Miss Marie. Yes, this weekend, this was a good week. Like I said, it was just relaxing. I didn't go into church, but I listened to church online, and it was good. We had a good message in church, and everything was just relaxing. And I'm so glad that your grandbaby, he's doing good. He's back to his normal self and playing and everything. So that is so good. And it's right, God, he has compassion with us, and that's what he wants us to love our neighbor and have compassion in our hearts for people. And I try to practice it every day, especially in the field that I'm working in. I have to have compassion, when I'm helping people, because you're right, you never know, people be smiling and going through something right behind closed doors, you'll never know it. So we just have to, be nice to people. And the people factor, it'll teach you that. Once you get reading that book, you're going to really see, if you hadn't got the book, how to treat people and how we supposed. And then I like how he relayed back to the word too. He always, backdoor with the word, or teach the word through the book. So I agree with you, Miss Cookie, on that. Anyone else have anything to say about their weekend? How y'all weekend was?
I just want to say good morning to everybody.
Good morning, Miss Catherine.
Good morning. I'm just excited to be in the room with everybody. I'm just blessed and honored to be able to wake up with you, ladies and gentlemen, coming in on this line. I'm just loving the energy already, and I'm just excited to see what God is going to do through all of us, with us and through us. Like I said, I'm loving the energy already. I had a wonderful weekend. My book actually came in yesterday, so I'm a newbie to this book. So I will begin to read, and I'm just excited to see and hear, how this book has impacted others, and just everybody's perspective on it, and how we can conversate in with this book together. So I'm just excited about this week, and I'm excited about getting to know everybody. Like I said, I'm enjoying the energy already, and I know that great things come, when we wake up early and we come together in prayer. We come together letting God be our foundation. So I'm just excited to share the word with you guys. And I hope y'all have a wonderful day and a blessed week. And I'm going to be praying with y'all and for y'all.
Right. Thank you, Miss Tangela, and welcome to the room. We are so glad to have you in the room with us. And yes, I'm glad you got that book so you can follow along with, with the leaders and with us, everybody when we read the book and they teach the book. But welcome, welcome, welcome. And yes, this energy in this room is good. This just like I said, it's a good room with you in other rooms with us. So you kind of know how it is. And this room is a good room, good anointing room. Welcome. Anyone else have anything to say about this? About the people factor? If you received your book or this weekend, how was your weekend?
Good morning, Toya, and everyone in the room. I was typing it in the chat about my weekend, but I decided to open up my mic. This weekend was a amazing weekend. I went to the Urban Music Fest we have here. We used to have it like every year, but for the last couple of years, it's been canceled and everything due to COVID and other things. So finally, they finally were able to go ahead and go through with it. And it was so amazing. I think everybody there needed what was brought to us, just music and fun and everything. It was like one big family reunion. You had your loud, crazy uncle, then you had your uncle, your auntie that's gonna drink like fish. Then you had that one that just they could still dance to but it was just so much fun. And it was just like, wow, it was much needed, like I said, for all of us, not just for myself, but all of us. You could see how everybody in the crowd was getting together, mingling and talking and dancing, just having a good time. So it was just like it was a real good weekend. And just to be around my people and just have fun, good, clean fun, no fighting, no, acting crazy or nothing like that. It was just awesome. So that was my Saturday. And Sunday just topped it off as always. But yes, it was like one big family reunion. Like I said, it was much needed for all of us. And you could tell on everybody's face. You had people, the kids, their babies, so it was from the young all the way up to the old. So it was just awesome to be there and just to witness it and just, like I said, just enjoy myself and just have fun.
Nene, is that every year?
It's everywhere. Every year it came, they come along with the Texas relays. So, yeah, they were still doing the relays, but they had to keep canceling the Urban Fest because of, COVID and then the rain and everything like that. But it came through this year, and it was much neat, right on time, right on time.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I saw your pictures, you put up on Facebook, on social media about it and stuff. So that's good that y'all just got to hang out and just have fun. It ain't nothing like being around family. And everyone had that crazy uncle, that funny uncle, or auntie, or somebody, just cousins and everybody, just everybody being around family, being safe, because you just never know. We here today and be gone tomorrow. So we try to have to live our life and and like in the book say, let stuff go and just love one another. So I'm glad you had a good weekend with your family and everything. Thank you for sharing. Anyone have anything else how their weekend was? Anybody else? Anybody else? Let me see what they say in the chat. Good mornings. Okay.
Well, Miss Toya, while you are looking at the chat, I just want to say one more thing. Nene, you was on point again this morning. I tell you, that music was awesome. I appreciate it. I forgot to tell her that just a minute ago, but it was right on point. I appreciate you, Nene. Love you. That's all I'm gonna say. I really am gonna let somebody else talk.
That's good, Miss Cookie. You come on in. Yeah, that Nene, she always come on in with that music, but then she know, and I don't know that God just be speaking through her because she always come with the right music at the right time. Um, so I just appreciate her for coming in and setting the room with that good worship music because it definitely is appreciated. Let me see what Miss Sabrina says in the chat. Um, okay, so Miss Sabrina said, good morning. We had a great time with activities in nature as a family, enjoying the sunshine. Yes, Miss Sabrina. It was a nice weekend and everything was as nice, the weather and everything good to be out and with your family. Except for yesterday, then that storm came in and lightning and thundering real bad. But for the most part, it was really a good weekend. Yes. Anyone else had anything to say this morning before we bring our speakers on, our powerful speakers to start us off? The duo team. All right, Miss Marie, are you available? Not Miss Marie, I mean Miss Marilyn.
You talking about me, Toya?
Yes, ma'am. Miss Marilyn, are you ready?
I am ready. I am ready. Well, good morning, ladies. Good morning and happy Monday to each of you. We welcome each one of you guys in for the Breakfast of Champions, and we appreciate y'all joining in with us. I am so looking forward to a great weekend. Mrs. Cookie, thank you so much for your prayers, all of y'all for your prayers yesterday. That storm ran me clean out of Tyler, Texas. Y'all were doing the most yesterday. I got on that road and I hightailed up out of that place. I cannot be stuck here in the middle of this and it looked like it was going to rain all morning long. And I wanted to get somewhere and be settled so that we not miss these moments that we're getting ready for this morning. So, well, welcome to everyone. I want to take a moment to say hello. I know our class is going to really be growing this month, and I'm really excited about that. I'm so glad to see our sister Miss Tangela back in the room with us, y'all. She's an oldie but goodie, and we're so glad to have her up. And we're going to have quite a few new hosts coming in with us this month as well. And I'm excited about blending and combining all the hearts together. Well, I want to stop and say hello to everyone, and then we're going to move forward with the session this morning. Ms. Anita Johnson, I want to say good morning to you. Good morning. Miss Nene Houston, I need that playlist this morning. That was really, really good. You always do a wonderful job. Miss Donisha Warren, good morning. Good morning. Miss Felicia Johnson, good morning to you. Mrs. Delcina Mangrum, good morning. Miss Kathy Mitchell, good morning. Good morning. Mrs. Katambra Jeffries, good morning. Miss Latoya, good morning. Good morning. And welcome to the Monday morning family. Y'all notice she switched days. Miss Cookie is going to be on Fridays and Mrs. Latoya is on Mondays. Mrs. Latrice McDowell, good morning to you. Miss Cookie Marie, good morning. Good morning. Miss Nikki Prentice, good morning. Good morning. Miss my partner, Mrs. Sabrina Tapase, good morning to you. Mrs. Sheena Fight, it's so good to see you in the room this morning. Mrs. Shirley Clark, good morning. Good morning. Miss Tangela Goss, good morning. Good morning. Miss Tanisha Bright, good morning. And Mrs. Tamika Franklin, good morning. And all of the others that will be joining in, whether you come in just a little bit later in the room or you join us on the replay. Once again, you guys, you can get a copy of each one of the replays every day by actually you can listen to them by actually going to our YouTube channel and subscribing to the channel so that you can get them. Some of you may be noticing I don't get the replays anymore. It's because they're all on YouTube. There's only a few of them that we don't post out there. You know, like if we get just too personal with our conversations, that's the only time we won't put them out there. But otherwise, you can go to YouTube and you can actually find those messages out there. For those of you that are brand new to Breakfast of Champions, oh my God, what are you waiting on to get in this room? This is such a powerful group of women that get up early in the morning to bless the Lord. We come in to say, God, you can take that 10% from us. You don't have to ask for it or anything, because we know we're going to need you to bless the 90, because we don't know what's going to come our way this week, or how, life is going to challenge us. But I heard in the word of God that thanks be unto God who always causes us to triumph, because so we already know in the end that we're already winners. We don't have to look forward to being a winner. We already know that we are winners. So thanks be unto God for that. Well, I'm not going to prolong the time. We got a great message coming up this today. I'm going to be dealing with chapter 1, where it talks about you've got to be you. It is what they call the law of being real. And then Mrs. Sabrina, she's going to be dealing with chapter 7. And chapter 7 is about what you don't know can hurt you, the law of secrets. And I'm excited to hear what God has actually downloaded with her. Sabrina and I think we're skilled enough to where we can interchange these messages together and share what God has given to us, and see how they work hand in hand. Though this book actually reads in chapter format, every piece of it, as he's dealing with us and how we deal with the people in our lives, it doesn't matter which chapter you read. All of it is going to bring some point of relevance to our lives that we're dealing with right now. And I really am excited to see what God downloads in the heart of those that are going to be sharing. And then y'all, we want y'all to jump in, to the conversation as well. Even if you just go to the chat box, if you want to raise up your hand, let's use as much interaction as we can. For those of you that would like to be open with your cameras, it would be a beautiful thing in this new April season, this second quarter, for us to see your faces, be able to interchange with you. But please feel free to raise your hand. Whatever you have questions about something, just come on in and join the family. We love that interaction there. Well, we talked a little bit on Friday. We did the introduction to this particular class, and we were talking about how, the people in our life that actually influence us, and sometimes you may not think that some of the people around you are influencing you, but they really are. Anybody that has your ear, anybody that has time with you, these people are going to play some form of they're going to play some part of the the growth, the coming and goings of who you are. And I think it's very wise for us to pay attention to a lot of things, and to understand that not everybody should have your ear, and not everybody should have your time, but there are some people that should have your ear and you should have their ear, and some people that should have your time. And we want to learn the difference between them. I want to kind of start off by talking about this. One of the biggest challenges that take place in relationships is that, we sometimes have not and this is my perspective on it. Somebody may say something different. I think one of the biggest challenges as Christians, and because that's what we are, this is a Christian movement, sometimes we have failed to center our vertical relationship with God the way it's supposed to be. And so we have problems with the horizontal, which are the people that we do life with. And anytime you find yourself struggling to get along with people, it would behoove us not to look at the people as the problem, but really to go back to say, God, where am I missing fellowship with you? I want to know how to love like you love. I want to learn how to care like you care. I want to learn how to acknowledge others like you do. I just want to get the heartbeat for you. So a lot of times when you're feeling that anxiety, maybe you have given people too much space in your life. Too many people. Some people have that social anxiety, and sometimes it can be that you give too many people too much of your space, and you don't give God enough of your space. I think a lot of times when we start recognizing that social anxiety may be coming because we're not sure how to relate to people in certain environments. This is where you can go back to God to talk to him about those kinds of things, to ask God, especially if you really, really do want to, be a little bit more friendly with individuals. Ask God how to interact with them, because sometimes God may tell you just to listen and not to do a lot of talking. Sometimes you got to learn the space that you're in. One of the things that I do when I come into company with anybody, I check my space out. I always look at my environment that I'm surrounded around, and I want to know, where do I fit into the equation of this? I'm not just going to push myself into conversations or into relationships with individuals. I want to actually find out where I fit in this equation, and that calls for slowing down and being at peace, relaxing in some things, and it also causes your heart to relax a little bit. Miss Sabrina, what about you? How are you when it comes down to maybe engaging with others and allowing other people to actually influence your life too? Feel free to jump in.
Yeah, good morning, first of all. So good to be back. And I'm really excited about this book, first and foremost, Marilyn, because I mean, relationships are going to be playing a major part and also in my life in this coming season. And so not only, in my marriage, but of course also just with other people. And one thing that God just kind of reminded me of while you were talking about this was just about the time when we moved to the United States and had a complete different culture. And that's when you really ask yourself this question, first and foremost, who am I? And who do I want to hang around with? Because when you grow up in a certain place, you do have your friend circle. It's kind of like developed, and you're just not maybe questioning major things. But whenever my husband and I moved to the United States, first and foremost, what we were faced with was, of course, finding a new circle of relationships that would help us grow, but because we didn't know, the Lord back then. So it was also finding that relationships that would draw us closer to the Lord, but then also in general, just like friends and like people that we want to spend time with. But also in that process was so interesting that I was not aware of, and that I'm so excited. I think this is also something that we're going to talk about here in this book. It's just like letting go of friendships where you said, like, having the ear, because we had this developed friendship, and to be able to let go and actually see who's no longer serving me and who's actually kind of just, like standing in my way of growing into the person that we were supposed to be here. So that was also a major part that I had to learn, that was kind of hurtful, because there was some truth revealed that, you don't want to hear, or that you don't want to realize, or, but it was super, super important on the way to have a circle that does you good, and in the end, like, draws you closer also to this relationship. So yeah, just a quick note there.
That's a great point there. Anytime you're moving to a new environment, we know our circle, where we came from, whether it was working for us or not, we knew the circle. We knew, it's just like our neighborhoods. You knew pretty much what neighborhood you wanted to kind of be around or whatever. And then there comes times where God will remove us and put us somewhere else. And it takes a moment to silence ourselves, to hear what it is that God has to say. So I'm glad that you and Daniel took that opportunity to find out how to blend your newfound relationship with Christ and find the people that God wanted you to do life with. That goes to our first chapter, where he talks about the law of being real. You've got to be you. I think before you can really find what we use that word, our tribe of people, you have to know who you are. And I dare to say, a lot of times we did not know who we were. I think that's why we started engaging with individuals, and then realized that no, that's not who I am. That's not who I am. And later on, as we started growing, we started defining our relationship more. If we go back in time, we can see this happening with our children. I know me. One of the things that I noticed that happened, like with my children and my grandchildren as well, is that we're having to teach them about relationships, because a lot of times when you're young, you try to make friends with everybody. You got that, you're kind of like that social butterfly, but you have to be true to yourself. And sometimes we have to evolve into that. Dr. Van Moody he starts off with a story. He said, did you see any of the movies in the Batman trilogy starring Christian Bale? What about Inception? How about The Avenger or Iron Man? He said, in these films, the main characters wear masks or they pretend to be people that they are not. Similarly, in the classic film Roman Holiday, Gregory Peck's character Joe hides the fact that he is a newspaper reporter who stands to gain $5,000 for securing an interview with Audrey Hepburn's character and simply pretends to be her friend. At the same time, his character is a princess masquerading as an ordinary girl, like everybody's masquerading. While secret identities and eloquent disguises offer good entertainment, the people who pretend to be anyone other than him or herself will not be able to enjoy the genuine, authentic relationships. And to build and maintain deep, substantial relationships, people must know themselves, be honest about themselves, and share their true selves with others. They need to be real. They have to be who they are with no pretenses and no spine and no spin. And of course, they also have to be free from the dark web of keeping serious secrets. But I have reserved that important part for another chapter. And matter of fact, that's the chapter we're actually talking about. Nobody but God could have done that. It says in this chapter, I simply want to focus on how and why we must be genuine, honest individuals, and to explain the importance of looking for those same qualities in others. I think that was a great kind of depiction of how many of us go through life. We go through life with various masks, especially, we learn these things when we're little. And, when you move from elementary maybe to middle school, you start thinking about, maybe it takes this certain quality to be with this particular crowd. And, I have to change the person that I am. And sometimes we start becoming somebody that's not a part of our house. We become two people. We seen multiple movies or probably in our own houses where kids leave the house one way, and by the time they get to school, they got makeup on, they've changed the whole outfit, they've done all of this. Well, that's what I call putting on characters. And sometimes the characters that we put on are people not only that we are pretending to be, but sometimes we want to be something else, but we don't always know exactly how to get there. So when I think about that, I think it's very important that we be in tune with God. When shifts take place in your life, when you feel the need to be something other than yourself, I think there has to be a moment where you stop to ask yourself why. So I'm going to kind of stop and kind of engage with our audience a little bit. And how many of you have found yourself, and let's be honest about it, maybe at some point in time in your life where you felt that you took on another character? You start performing and being something that you thought that you needed to be in some particular circle, only to realize that maybe, that's not fitting me, but I don't know how to get back home either because I pretended to be like this for so long. I'll start with you, Sabrina. Have you ever found yourself in a position like that before?
Yes, because I remember when I started my journey in the work world, just finding my place, I guess, because whenever you do internships and really try to figure out which company, which people, which team, that's definitely something where I was always like the chameleon trying to fit in and just always be like, looking at my environment and trying to just, be of a good cheer and do my work and, try to be loyal and, try to just perform and be professional and like all these different things, especially if you're in a space that you've not been before, you're very keen to how are people behaving here? What are their conversations? What are like, just what's the culture? Like, how do they make me feel? And all these different things. I remember I was very, very like alert whenever I started my workspace, and also when I started my apprenticeship with my company that I finally found. You go through all these departments, and get to know the company. And again, same thing, you enter a new team, on occasion, and finding yourself, and still being able to fit in and kind of be of value. And that was a very, very intense time for me, where I always tried to, put on those masks just to fit in that particular department, which made me very likable. And in that moment, it was very healthy. But sometimes that can also be very, going into the wrong direction if you're trying to change yourself too much for a certain particular group, especially if they're not good for you. So that's just a take.
Yeah, I think the workplace is a great place to look at that, because I've worked with more males in my career. And one of the things that I have noticed, you let people be who they are, but I would often wonder where the competition would come at. And say, for instance, it'll be something like, my name is Michael, but call me Mike. Or my name is Stephen, but call me Steve. We always have, it's like we feel like we have to fit in with the culture, with what everybody else is doing, instead of being your unique self, because sometimes the good old boys may come in there and say, hey, Mike, how's it going? And sometimes if that's not the name that you want to be called, sometimes you have to correct those things. Otherwise, you will become Mike to everybody. And I think sometimes even in the workplace, there are often times where the character of everybody thinking that you are able to pick up every assignment, do a lot of the work for everyone. And sometimes because we're trying to climb corporate ladders, sometimes we will find ourselves putting on more weight to ourselves than we should. And then realizing later on that there's an imbalance within the company. And now some companies will actually promote you on things like that, but there are a lot of companies that they won't even look at the service that you have provided, and it can cause some disheartening in the heart. So I think that law of being who you are, I think once we become in tune with God, the Lord will let us know how much to take on. And then also there are times where the Lord actually has us to make sure to give that to the proper person that it needs to go to, because otherwise we will put on that Superman cape. It's just like Dr. Van Moody is saying here, all of these different characters that's coming out, you change from and before long, you will have disguised yourself and nobody will actually know who you are. Am I freezing, guys? Yeah, looked like it was freezing for a moment, but changing into a lot of different things. Anybody else want to share on that one right quick? Anybody else had the, notice that maybe you had, maybe put on another face? Maybe it wasn't in the workplace, but it was somewhere else that you felt like you had to put. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, this is Felicia.
Good
I
morning.
was just sitting here thinking, I remember me wearing a mask, and I was a superwoman in my marriage. That was my second marriage. We had our first child, and I just felt as though I just had to do everything myself. Basically, this was my first child. I didn't feel as though my husband was more responsible than I was. So I took on the task of everything. I didn't let him keep him, doing all, most of the chores, just doing all the running. Until finally, God had to speak to me. It was a few years and just say, you know what, you have a husband, you have to share responsibilities, you have to trust. And it was very tiring. It really was, because I just felt as though I had to be this superwoman and to prove something. I guess, to myself and to him as well, which wasn't right. But anyway, I just thought about that, me playing the role of being a super woman.
Yeah, that's good. In marriages, I think it's automatic for us, because sometimes it seems to come with the title that you have as being, that helpmate, trying to help assist in every area that you can. And sometimes you will find yourself taking on too much, and it becomes very imbalanced. And the other person may not even know how to do some of the things that you do. It works for some families, but the more I keep, looking at the balance of relationships, I think that there are times where there needs to be a little bit more of a softening of the heart, to come in and ask, can we do anything to help assist you with that? That's where that love comes in, to say that, yeah, you know what, I think my wife needs some help, or my spouse needs some help, or they don't need my help right there. Because a lot of times it's us offering what they call unsolicited advice or help. And sometimes I think one of the great things is to ask people, would you like for me to do such and such or whatever, so that they not feel even incompetent with that. And even I think, ladies, also, this is something, and Sabrina, feel free to jump in. This is something, anytime that you sense an individual becoming very codependent with you, as if they're leaning on you, like they're not able to do it on their own, it may be good to straighten up the shoulders of that person at that time, to have conversation. That's that pillow talk, because a lot of times we're not always talking about things that really matter. That's a time where we can have conversation about, are we leaning on each other? I do believe that there is a place to where we know that the person is there for us, but sometimes you can lean on an individual too much and bring in a sense of codependency there that you don't even know that exists. And so a lot of times you have to allow God to reveal those things to you so that he can teach you how to make the proper correction there. So Miss Sabrina, feel free to jump in with your topic, and I'd love to kind of, let us gel
Go
together.
back and forth. Yeah, no,
Yes.
perfect. There were two questions that I asked myself reading the chapter 7. And, this is a question we can all ask ourselves in terms of just our identity and our values that we want to present as self, but also coming into any relationship. And I think they're so powerful, just knowing really what our identity in Christ is, and that we, as you said in the beginning, have a winning attitude about it. And there comes so much with it. But those two questions, where do you want to position yourself to be a strong, healthy contributor to every relationship? And it's making that choice. Sometimes these things seem to us so just on the surface, but really knowing who we are and that we want and choose to be a contributor to a relationship. And one part of that for me was also accepting help. Like when Felicia was sharing, I was just thinking it's humbling in those moments sometimes to let go of that role, of that mask. And first of all, admit that, again, that we need that help. And, I have a friend right now that she is exactly in that situation. She just got a second child, and she's just saying, Sabrina, it's been crazy. I'm kind of in survival mode. And, just because she has struggled to really accept help and is not a good contributor in that moment to her husband, because our husbands cannot always read what we need. They can offer it, but it's not like that they kind of can read through us in those moments and can always say, hey, you need this right now, that really takes a lot of that interaction for them to kind of figure us out in this new role, like more and more, which I can see in my own relationship with my husband, having a child. But that was huge and is huge. And the other one is, do you want to be a person living in the light, free from bondage and destructive influence of secrets, which actually comes down to 1 John 1:7. Because if we choose to be a person of light, if we don't allow help to come in, and if we don't allow, to have conversations with our spouse, certain things, and that's what is, talking about in chapter 7, the law of, against secrets, like we keep little secrets to ourselves. It's not that we've done something, but there's always something that is stirring up and, staying in the dark. So there are more things that have to be revealed later on that makes a conversation much harder than if we see there's something in us that doesn't want to come out, like that we need that, again, as you said, having those conversations with our spouse. And from time to time, I have to have that with my spouse because things add up, and you definitely have to depress and right away get into the rhythm of, just setting this free and bringing things into the light. So that's what I wanted to share there.
Yeah, and I'm gonna bring Miss Tangela in just a few minutes. That's a good point to deal with those things early in the relationships, because they can compound up on top of one another. We keep those secrets to ourselves. What they say, what we don't know can hurt us. Maybe something may have bothered you or whatever. I think a lot of times it's learning the art of conflict, because sometimes depending on where we came from, Sabrina, conflict to some people may have been, just off the wall, dealing with things, because they raise their voice or they blow up about everything. But in a marriage, and even not just even in a marriage, anybody that you're doing life with, there has to be a place of compatibility. I think that's why we say you got to know who you are, and then that you be compatible with the people to find out if y'all have some of the same rhythm. So when it's time for us to have conversations, we have the right people that we are having conversation with, not somebody that's just going to blow up. But I do realize in life, the reality is we haven't always chosen people like that in our space. And so we've had to learn how to deal with conflict sometimes in some rough environments, only to try to bring it back to a place of peace where it needs to be. So I agree, dealing with those things in early stages so that they not compound on top of one another is definitely a great thing. Mrs. Tangela, I saw your hand up. Go ahead, Ms. Sabrina.
Oh, just real quick, two tools to share with that is just reflection and investigation. So for each and everyone, if, before those relationships, like reflect on yourself. And in the chapter 7 are actually great questions to reflect on some things, and then investigate and put people on trial, depending on how deep you want the relationship to be with that person. That were just two tools before we move on that were shared in this chapter that were super enlightening to me. So sorry, I didn't want it to come, but that was just, something brought up. Go ahead.
You say investigation and putting them on trial.
Yeah, investigation, putting on trial, but also reflecting on ourselves, right? Like that constant reflection and sitting with God and reflect. Yeah.
Wonderful. Miss Tangela, I saw your hand up.
Yes, ma'am. You ladies pretty much covered what I was going to say when Miss Sabrina was talking about that mask that we put on sometimes. And the topic when you guys were talking about kind of being somebody that having to pretend to be somebody that you're not, because we all go through these different seasons in life, and even as we mature in age. And I know that I've seen a lot of people that wear many hats, whether it be work, home, church, and a lot of people are wearing a mask because they're dealing with some type of depression or some type of health issue, as our body age. And they put this mask on because they're just trying to get through the day, or even people that are dealing with past hurts. They put these masks on and they're trying to function. I think we had that conversation when we had our meeting with the radio on Teach Me How to Love. People are just trying to function day to day, still hurt and trying to heal, trying to be their best selves, but they're wearing this mask and nobody really knows what's going on. So it's kind of going back. You guys had already covered it, but that's what I wanted to say, because I found myself normalizing this mask to where I didn't even recognize that there was something going on with me. And because I had normalized it, things had gotten so bad. And I think I was telling you, Miss Marilyn, I had broke out. Like last month, I had broke out in shingles. I was just so stressed out, my body, because I wasn't paying attention to myself, the season that I was in. And just like I said, I had normalized just the dysfunction around me. And not saying that it was anybody else's fault, but I just wasn't paying attention to myself because I had just normalized, my life, the things I have to do with my children, the things I have to do with my marriage, the things I have to do at church, the things I have to do in just all of these different areas. I didn't pay attention to what I was going through and what I needed. And so I had put this mask on just to function and get through the days. So I just wanted to say that in case anybody else was dealing with that, but we have to stop and take the time to see what God is trying to say. And I can't admit I didn't get in the quiet places that I needed to get into, to be able to just sit down and figure out what was going on with me, because I was just so fixated on trying to get things done with everybody else. I let myself go. And so that's another way, just functioning out with our families, our marriages, in the community. We put this mask on and we're not able to be our true authentic self and recognize what season we're in because we're just trying to be everything to everybody else.
Yeah, that sounds good. That's a great thing. That kind of reminds you of the reflecting that Sabrina's talking about. And ladies, I hope that as you all are coming into Breakfast of Champions this morning, that you're having an opportunity to stop and reflect maybe on some things that may be going on in your space right now. That may be the weightiness that's up on you right now. You know how it is. Sometimes we're carrying more than our portion, or we're not putting things back where they belong. That's a word that I use a lot. We're not putting things back in place where they belong. And sometimes it's just organizing our space and organizing our mind to figure out, all right, though I took this on, was that the weight that was supposed to be up on me? And or am I, taking on a little much? I saw Mrs. Katambra's hand up next, and then afterwards, Sabrina, I'll let you move forward with your conversation, then I'll come behind you. Ms. Katambra?
Good morning. Good
Good
morning.
morning.
I can so relate to Miss Tangela. I think it's a survival mechanism. I know from speaking for myself, it was survival mechanism. Even from childhood, you learn to either to not be seen, you learn how to blend, and either to learn how to survive, you learn how to hide. And just going through that life, even get to high school, when you don't understand your true identity, you mesh with different groups until you find one that accepts you, not necessarily for who you are, but just where you feel like you can be accepted. And that carries over into adulthood, and then that carries over into the workplace. And by the time you sit down somewhere and you've gone through multiple relationships that are unhealthy, and you're trying to figure out why this and why that and what happened here, what happened there, you've overextended yourself, you've lost yourself, and you're trying to figure out, who in the world am I? And you only get to that point, for me, and speaking for myself, you only get to that point when you're just tired. You're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you're sick and tired of people running over you. You're trying to figure out why did this happen to me, not sitting in a victim mindset, but just trying to figure out, where did it go wrong? Or where did I lose myself? When did I become this person? And is that really me? Did I really do that? And it's really introspective, and it's a point that you have to get to, because the world can beat you down to a point so much that you don't really want to show yourself, because you don't feel like your authentic self will be accepted. And it's a certain age that you get to where you're like, you know what? I don't care if you like me or not. This who I am, take it or leave it. And so I think I'm just now getting to that point in my life. And even then, you have to look and see, is that really my voice? Or have I been around someone that is a chameleon? Because you just learn to adapt, and people push that adaptation on you so that you can be successful in careers. You have to keep your head on a swivel, all those different sayings that they have when it comes to growing and developing. But it gets to a point where all of these faces have turned on you and they're like monsters to you. And so you have to sit down somewhere and start to peel all of those layers back to get back to your true authentic voice and find that point where you meet that point where it says, I knew you before I put you in your mother's womb. And so you try to get back to that point, to God, why did you put me in my mother's womb? And so that's kind of where I'm at in life. So I can so much agree with Tangela. To me, it was a survival mechanism.
Yeah, one of the things I like that, Katamra. One of the things that I would do, I love the reflection part, and even to put my own self on trial. One of the things that I would always remind myself is, it was a simple song. Let's get back to Eden and live on top of the world. And Eden is that place of oneness with God. It's that place where nothing was missing, nothing was broken. And so sometimes I have to take my mind to that place. That's that law of being real and being who I am. Anytime I'm feeling just out of place with something and my voice is like it's being muffled or whatever, I always think about that song, Let's Get Back to Eden and Live on Top of the World, to where your best self is at. And you don't have to ask permission from anybody to do that. That's that vertical relationship with God being intact. And the Lord says, when your ways are pleasing before me, he said he'll make your enemies be at peace with you. Whether they understand it or not, they'll come into allegiance with that one day or not. But I think the main thing is that we be happy with who we are. Miss Sabrina?
Yes, so interesting that we're talking about this, because there's one question, it's like, where are we going in life? And I was just making notes while Katama was sharing about her journey. And I think one thing that we have to learn to understand when we reflect is, what are our patterns of relationship and also bad habits? Because the book talks about secret places, and what are those secret places for us? And that will help us identify, how did we get here? Like, how did I get here in this dangerous ground where I'm having all these battles that I'm not supposed to have, right? Mm-hmm. And the book's talking about like physical places, like in general, where do we go where, you know, we just find ourselves having battles in different environments with different people, or, you know, in a certain place where we know we're just not going to be a reflection of God and our best self. Then emotional places, like, you know, when we always go into jealousy, bitterness, comparison, right? Like when we try to also look at other people's lives and see, you know, what does that do with our emotions? And again, reflect on that and just write it down. Like, what am I feeling? What are all these negative emotions I'm feeling? And trying to figure that out. You know, also online places, cyber places, like, you know, certain websites that are kind of taking us into temptation or taking us into places where we are, you know, totally losing ourselves in the world and what it has to offer, which we should be separated from. And then also like places of bad habits. And then that was one thing. Whenever we have bad habits in place and we don't know we have them, like we end up going like, ooh, like, how did I get here? Like, how, you know, I'm here, but normally I want to be there. So how did that happen? And so it's, if we let that connection with God override with like fleshly behavior and like, can I have all these things that are going on, let's say the craziness of the world that overrides our relationship in a relationship with the Lord. And then also that you said like of bad influence with the worldly views, where it's really about just what is do we have a kingdom mentality or do we have a worldly mentality? And to always think back of who we are, because we fight those battles that we often have of like taking on those masks. It's like, God, who am I? Like you said, Jesus has already overcome, so I'm an overcomer. You know, you said like, God has already fight this battle for us. You know, so it's not our battle, but we have to give it back to the Lord. So there are certain things that we always have to get back in place with God. So, you know, that have been totally out of whack for us, that we need to kind of ground again, to be able to just, ground ourselves again in who we are, knowing who we are, what our values are, and that we already are a winner and have victory in our hands, and to come from that place and again start afresh with ourselves and the relationships around us. So that was just something from the book and what I wrote down. Yeah.
You know what, Sabrina, that's so good. One of the things that I'm hearing you're talking about is recentering and regrounding yourself. Many times that's what's happened. We're no longer grounded in God. And a lot of times when we're not grounded, or we're either no longer grounded in God, or we have not been grounded in God. And so a lot of times our behaviors are taking us into a lot of different, directions, and which causes us to hold secrets in, even the secret that I need help, or the secret of, that's not really who I am. We just put on various masks because we feel like we got to go with the flow of what other people are doing, but we can hold secrets within ourselves because maybe we feel nobody really cares anyway. Even if I shared this deep thing that was going on with me. There's something that Van Moody talked about in the You Got to Be You. He said to enjoy success in our lives and in dealing with other people, we need to thoroughly know our true selves and then allow the right people to know us completely as well. That's that place of transparency. The people that we choose to do life with, we give them an opportunity to get to know us well. I really believe that a lot of times we can bring too many people into our space at one time, and we may not let that part of us develop, being true to who we are, and then opening up to let other people know who we are, because sometimes we bring too many people into the space at one time and we start hearing different words. He says something, he says, see through the words that people use. He said, most people are quick to speak, but they're slow to hear. They have no clue how weighty their words can be and no idea how seriously others may take what they say. Perhaps you know exactly what I mean. He said, maybe a boss said you were due for a raise, but they never completed the paperwork so you could actually get it. Maybe someone said the powerful words, I love you, then proceeded to treat you disrespectfully or to demonstrate all kinds of selfish, unloving behavior. Or maybe you encountered simple, common situations such as hearing a teenager say, yeah, I'll clean up my room, only to see the room is still a mess a week later. You probably have all kinds of personal experience with people who say one thing and then they do something else. It's a widespread problem, and we often build relationship with people who do this because we do not understand that they really do not know themselves, and therefore do not recognize the whatever that word is, between the words and actions that they use. He tells a story about a young man, this young man named Jason, who grew up around the car business and now runs a marketing business for auto parts company. Several years ago, through a family member, Jason became acquainted with Steve, a semi-retired owner of an organization with manufacturing and sales operations all over the world, but with very little marketing support. So Jason saw great potential in the company and recognized that and give him access to an entirely new consumer base if only a savvy marketer like Jason would communicate them clearly. Jason had the ability and experience to serve Steve and the company well, and he was eager to do so. Despite being warned by someone with personal experience, that guy will work you harder than anyone else ever has. He will eat your lunch. Jason thought the relationship would provide him with good experience, so he moved ahead with it. Because he had been informed they had a small marketing budget and could not pay him a fair market share, Jason reduced his fees and made very little money in his efforts on their behalf. I want to stop right there for a moment. And I know we're going more into the story. This is something that God has been working with me on this. There are a lot of times when you have a certain skill set in an area, And this is what you have actually landed to be. This is your niche. This is what you do. But people see another skill set in you, and because you sometimes, if you don't know who you are, people can draw you into places that's not really who you are. And one of the first things that you will notice is that they don't give you your fair market share on behalf of that. And sometimes we'll think, well, I just want to go in and get the experience, different things like that. Ladies and gentlemen, I would say to you, count up the cost before you do that, because a lot of times people will make promises about things because they're looking at they're looking at what you can bring to the table, and they have not brought in what we call a win-win situation with that. Because if you bring something to the table that they need, which takes you out of the place that what you have normally been in, your salary should go up. It should never go down. Because remember, they need you. You didn't ask to go into those places. Even if you do see, oh, it's a good, maybe I could learn some things over there or whatever, don't shortchange yourself and think that that's a good idea. Because if what your family needs is the finances, you and God have already dealt with it. Remember, we talked about the vertical first. That's the reason that God has assigned you into those places, so that you can make sure to take care of your family, different things like that. You're going to find all kinds of sharks in all kinds of places, because a lot of times people are trying to, they're trying to get their quota. They're trying to bring the best people to the table. And you may be one of those people that they find that they can bring to the table. I think you need to challenge yourself to have them to bring your salary up. Don't bring my salary down, because I'm not, you're saying that you don't have the money to pay or whatever. You may not need my services at this time. What you may need to do is get you an internship, get you an intern. Does that make sense? And ladies and gentlemen, you have to be bold enough. I'm talking about know yourself well enough to not let money or let the influence of other people dangle you into different places. You got to stay steadfast on what God has said, because this story is going to tell how this thing did not turn out well with him. Jason put his time into something that Steve needed, but on the end of it, that's how it led to the story about it's got to be a win-win situation. You cannot always allow people to bring you into spaces to say that, well, I think you would be maybe a good mother for my kids, or I think you would be maybe a good this and that. But in essence, what are they bringing to the table to it as well? Am I making sense with that? And I think sometimes we've gotten ourselves caught up into situations like that because we didn't know who we were and we didn't know the value that we brought to the table. And sometimes we just allow people to kind of dangle us around and, do a lot of things with that. Anybody have any testimonies or want to kind of share on that a little bit? I hope I was clear with that conversation without going too far. This is where your self-esteem has got to be built up, ladies, and that may be the area. Some of you may be saying, well, I'm not getting my worth, or I got this skill set, but I'm getting paid this. That's because you don't know your worth just yet. You got to bring your worth to the table, because if you don't know it, people can offer you anything, especially when you go into a place hungry or you feel like, well, I just want to get my foot in the door. That needs to be a decision that you make. That's not a decision that somebody comes in and makes for you. You got to stand up for yourself and make your voice be heard in situations like that. Miss Marie, I see your mic open.
Yes, ma'am. I had a situation like that when I was working for the housing authority. So I'm working for the housing authority, and I started doing counseling work and helping different housing authorities get at with their audits and stuff like that. So I went to this particular housing authority because they were in shortfall. So I was bringing them up and I was doing the audit, and all of a sudden the director, she gets rid of the Section 8 counselor, and they're still in the middle of the audit. and she recognized that I knew what I was doing. So I started doing things, but then she started putting other things on top of that and on top of that. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I'm not the Section 8 office. I am here to get you out of short file. Once I do that,
Yes.
Then that's my job is done. But what she did, what she thought she was going to do, I did that. They passed their audit, and then she got rid of the Section 8 person, and then she started saying, I need you to do this, and I need you to do that, and do that. And so I had a conversation with her. I said, okay, I understand what you're saying, and I understand what your needs are, but you hired me to do this, and I've been doing this, 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 this. We need to come back to the table and discuss some things. And yeah, and then when I told her that, she was like, well, we can't afford this and that, and we can't afford this. We're shortcut. And I just politely told her, I said, I understand that, but at this point, you're going to have to get someone else. I appreciate you having me to come in, but she was making me to do everything for a very little amount of money, because I quoted her what I was going to do to help her get out of short file and to become a grade A company on paper. But now I'm not finna go do the footwork that it takes to run that whole office. So I understand that perfectly. And although sometimes you take jobs because you need a certain amount, you need to do this. Sometimes, when you, especially for me at that point, when I took the job, I was in between jobs, but I wasn't going to stay in between jobs. My mindset is, when I found this job, I was looking for another one. So I had to, I had to let her understand that I know my worth. I have everything that I need to even, how do you say, validate what I can do and what I've done.
Yeah.
And so I have this, but I'm not going to sell myself short on, just to make you look good and you get, I come from a whole different generation than probably everybody on here. So it got me in a mentality of, I'm not gonna be that one. I'll just put it like that. I'm not that one. That happened to my grandma. That's not gonna happen to me. So I understand that, and we have to understand that sometimes you may have to go. And at that time, I got up and I walked away, but God blessed me with a whole nother thing that was so much better. So much better. And if I'd have stuck there, I would not have gotten that position. Thank you for letting me share.
Amen. I love that. I'm gonna, and that kind of leads to the next part of this story, and then I'm gonna turn it back over to Sabrina. He talked about how working with Steve, working with Steve became so stressful, even that Jason's church friends and basketball buddies, who normally did not comment on his business endeavors, noticed that he was under unusual pressure. He said during the professional relationship, Steve took unreasonable amounts of time to respond to important emails and declared himself not available. While on the golf course, really what he had done, he had let somebody kind of take over a job that he was supposed to be doing himself on the golf or at his lake house when Jason needed information to complete his project on time. But Steve regularly contacted Jason during Jason's few short vacations. Steve and his wife even invited Jason and his girlfriend to spend a nice relaxing day with them on the lake. But soon as the young couple arrived, Steve cornered Jason and spent the next 3 hours talking about marketing ideas. Very selfish with that. He says, even though Steve did not treat Jason well, the older man repeatedly patted him on the back, told him how much potential he had, and told him what a great job he was doing. He even went so far as to say, aren't you glad you're working for me? Those words, yeah. He said, I know it doesn't pay much, but nobody will treat you better than I do. Y'all, that's a true form of narcissism. You may say that narcissism is just between male and female. It can be in the workplace as well, because that gentleman found someone that didn't know his value. He didn't know his worth. He didn't know who he was. He may have thought that climbing the corporate ladder took all of that, you know, and maybe he is happy to be around Steve and his wife, or to be able to, you know, fill in the gap for him. But you got to know when this person really does not have your best idea. I mean, your best, you know, heart, doesn't have your heart in mind. Because even to take your wife away from you for 3 hours while we go talk about these things, yeah, while we go talk about marketing. So that's the only reason you really brought me over, so that we can talk about some ideas. And 9 times out of 10, I'm just kind of thinking he's on the golf course talking to his buddies, and his buddies releasing these ideas and thoughts that he has. Oh, I got a guy on my team, Jason. I'm gonna run these things by him. Oh, let me go and invite him over for dinner. You don't think Jason's gonna show up? And you brought his girlfriend with him as well. See, this is how you can get into real narcissistic behavior in the workplace when you don't know who you are, which leads to keeping secrets. Now you're acting out on your wife at home. Now you're, you know, not showing up for things with the family because you got all these assignments. You got to know when enough is enough, because those things happen in the workplace a whole lot, and people keep secrets and they even lose their families behind things like that. Sabrina?
Yeah, I think it's so important for us to know what's safe for me, knowing that we are of Christ. And, you know, I don't know, in that particular situation, if it's talking that he kind of, you know, like with his identity in Christ, but knowing what's safe for us and where we can go, where dangerous places are, and having boundaries and all these things in place that kind of, you know, like keep us safe when we are not maybe recognizing certain patterns in people.
That's right.
That's really important, because it's like a little safety ring, you know, like when you go out there, and like that kind of keeps you afloat for a while until you maybe have figured things out and see that pattern. But with him, you know, it would be important to know, like, who can I talk about this? Like, how can I deal with it? Because if we keep those secrets, like, as you said, like he's bringing it home to wives. So we have, you know, it says like secret places lead to secret battles. So there's always something that we're going to regret later on, that when we don't express it, expose it, and deal with it, then it's something that, and the author's very clear about that, because he's like, I've been a pastor for so many years, and yes, people do have secrets. Okay. So we're not alone in having secrets, first and foremost. So deal with it, because otherwise you're going to produce a lifetime of regret. And it's going to stay in the loneliness of your heart, because again, it's staying in that dark place. And if you're not confessing it, and that's where community comes in, where we have to confess some things so that we can be set free from it. And sometimes that needs to happen and take place. And in this particular book, they were talking about Samson, how he was, you know, going into this vineyard where he was not supposed to go because he was a Nazarene, and like, you know, really set apart for the purposes of God, but he did it. And, you know, when he caught himself in that dangerous place, he was super like surprised. And that's sometimes what we find ourselves, right? How did I get here in this dangerous place? Like, how did I get here in this, you know? Even for this particular situation with Jason, he might think, how did I get here? Like, how did I had such a like dysfunctional relationship with, you know, this boss, or like, how did I get here? Because we don't know certain things that we have in our character. And there was one particular situation in my life where I didn't know that at such a need of helping people and like kind of help them to see the light, to see the Lord and all that, that it was actually dysfunctional, because I was not discerning with God first before going into that relationship. I was not doing my work of and actually putting that person on trial and really seeing the fruits in his life. Because again, we can sometimes see people and reflect on people by their fruits, right? That's what the Bible says. And if we don't see any fruits in their relationships or their finances, or we see struggle around them, then sometimes like that should help us. But I didn't know and was not aware of that fact. And that was a wrong side, because I was getting myself into a dangerous place with somebody that was seeing that I had a dysfunction in myself and was using that for his advantage, that at the end was causing struggles with my own marriage. So to kind of just keep it at the surface, but that was kind of where I learned and where God told me, here was a dangerous place and you made that choice to cross over there. And that's why you got here in your secret battle. And now let's deal with it. And that was hard. Because once we're in that secret place, it's hard for us. And that's what he's talking about, to come up with that truth, to work through it, because we need other people to help us, out. And that's when the work really has to start. But yeah, that was just something that I found very valuable from this chapter, what he was talking about, to really let other people know. And then, to just figure out, where do I need more discernment? Where do I need more, I guess, boundaries and things in place that help me out if I'm not seeing it myself. So yeah. Just very important points I learned.
That's good. And that also means it's very important for us it's needful for us to have those people in our lives that will help us to keep our boundaries set, do those check-ins, all those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we are centered within ourselves and to be able to make some of the hard decisions. I'm going to say this last thing, then I'll let Faith come in here. He talked about how we must realize that discrepancies between words and actions are serious warning signs. When people say one thing and they do something else, it's an indicator that something is going on. He said most of the time, people whose words and actions are not consistent, and they do not know themselves well, and therefore are not good candidates for relationships. And that's a tough one there. When what they say, you are, double-minded. That's instability in relationships. And then he says, having the integrity to go back up, to back up what we say with what we do is vital. And we must find people who will do the same with us. Setting this high standard for ourselves is equally important. Making sure that we do that. Ms. Faith, yes, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I found my mic on this. Try to get ready for work. I'm truly enjoying the conversation this morning, and I just wanted to share just a little portion of my journey. Everything is centered around who you are, knowing your identity and know your worth and values and all of the core values that you believe in yourself. And it's so true, even when you look up to leaders in your work environment, your supervisor, your manager, whomever. A situation happened to me, which was a pivotal transition in my career, where I had an opportunity to apply for a higher level position that would start me on a career path going forward, right? My supervisor told me, I asked her, I said, what do you, because I was new in the environment, new in the culture, really didn't know, a lot of people or a lot of leaders to go to. So I went to my supervisor. So anyway, I asked her, how do you feel about me applying for this position, since it would be in another office that she was familiar with? And she said, oh, no, don't apply for that, because they already have people at your level that they will probably promote internally. And I had to sit in that. And she viewed me in a sense where I wouldn't fit into that because I wasn't a part of that culture, meaning being a member of that culture in that environment, in that workspace, instead of looking at my qualities of what I brought to the table, in order to enhance that. So I went to God. And that's where we need to really go to God. Not to say not to get, feedback and things from our leadership, but after you get that, go back to God and see what God says. Because if I had not applied for that position, I would not have gotten it. And so I applied for it.
I was one of 60 on the referral list, and then I was the one that God chose to select. And I was new coming to an office with a whole lot of conflict because I was the outsider coming in and having to embrace a whole new culture, a whole new office. But sometimes all the time, we really need to go to God and hear him about who we are. She didn't look at who we are, and that's knowing your worth and taking the risk to go out and do something and push yourself in an area. You might feel uncomfortable, you might be new, you might have to, kind of shift and adjust even in that new environment. But you always have to be true to who you are, and true to God of who you are in him in order to achieve, the goals that you achieve. And that's what I wanted to share. Thank you for allowing me to speak this morning.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you, Faith. And those are good examples of how, just being true to who you are as an individual. Those things are taking those reflective moments. Some of us in the room this morning are seeing some things now that, oh, so that's probably what led to that. Or, oh, you know what? I need to, bring a little bit more awareness to that. He talks about also believing your own personal public relations campaign is easy, but it will not lead to truth, transparency, and integrity. One of the best ways to really get to know yourself is to focus on your behavior rather than your words. If you want to find out who you really are, look at your behavior. Sometimes we're quick to say yes and okay, but check your behavior, see if that's something that you're really, really believing in. So he said also, people of integrity do what they say they will do. The substance of their heart is expressed through their action. Another thing that I'll say with this also, the Bible says that bad communication corrupts good mannerism. If you see that there has been maybe a shift in the person that you once were, I would always say check your environment because the environment really does play a major part on the behaviors that you pick up. They call it subtle deceit. You can sit around individuals and they just kind of have a slip of the tongue with cursing, or they have a slip of the tongue with lying or whatever. You're invited into remember we said that you are, the people that are around you will influence you, whether you know it or not. Y'all, there are often times when, now that I've grown a lot older, I can sit in the middle of companies of people, and while I'm sitting with them, I'm making up my mind that that's not the company that I want to be around. And I'm praying and asking God not to let me get tangled up in that, because it's a difference between being kind to people and deciding whether I want this type of behavior, because you could tell, because sometimes the behavior comes and goes, different things like that. And so when I see those behaviors too many times, I don't necessarily say anything to the individual. I just make a decision within my heart that that's not what I necessarily want to be a major part of influence in my life, because I know that things can, cause you to kind of shift over as well. I'm going to close on my part on this, and then Miss Sabrina can do hers. There were a few questions. He said this will help you see how you're doing on your journey to becoming a faithful, transparent person, and let you know where you need to improve. One of the things he says is, when I say I will show up to an appointment at a specific time, do I show up on time? That is one of my prime indicators with individuals when I start trying to figure out whether these people know who they are, because your actions and your words should line up with one another. Another one, it says, if I have signed a credit card application agreeing to pay my creditors each month, do I pay them when payments are due? It says, if I have committed to marriage vows, am I keeping them? Do I honor my commitment to family members, including my children, rather than repeatedly letting them down, expecting them to cut me some slack? Because after all, we are family. Do I tell truth in casual conversations rather than being content with a little white lie? Do I demand honesty from myself on my job, even when twisting the truth a little will make me appear smarter or put me in a better position for a position? Do I tell myself the truth about who I really am? Am I honest about my weaknesses and my flaws? Do I exaggerate my own abilities? Do I tell half truths? Do I flatter people to gain their approval? And do I minimize or give damaging reports of others to make myself look good? He said these questions can all be answered with one word, either yes or no. Once you have answered them, he said, I recommend you consider them a little more, examine your responses and ask yourself why you answered yes or no. Think of specific examples and identify the reasons you responded the way that you did, though everybody has a reason for saying whatever they say. Is the more thorough and honest you are willing to be about yourself, the more effectively you can make the adjustments needed for personal growth and improvement. An honest assessment about yourself will help you to get to know yourself better than ever before. The better you know yourself, the better relationships that you can have. Miss Sabrina?
Yes, that's so good. And that sums up so well what we talked about with, just really knowing your value and the consequences that can happen if we don't. And just to get order, I guess, in ourselves and knowing where we stand firm, right, with God. That's kind of what I take away from it. Like, really, where do I stand firm with God, and how can that be a reflection of, how I want the relationships around me? So, thank you for sharing that. Yes, in regards to the secrets, I think if we find ourselves having a secret or having problems in a relationship, looking deeper and knowing that there's actually a purpose in that problem, that when we find ourselves having dysfunctional problems, that we know God has already a purpose for this situation. It's just that we need to, surrender to that God wants us to deliver and set us free from this. And that is something that I had to remind myself, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. It's so classical, but it's also so powerful because He will remind us, He will help us. Like, He is already there, and He loves us so much that there's already something greater waiting on the other side of us dealing with that secret, that relationship, that dysfunction, that wherever we see, if it's our marriage, like friends, work, right? Like all these places that we have every single day where God invites us to get closer and look about what is a secret that we do have that He wants to reveal, bring to light, because there is freedom on the other side and so much better life waiting for us without all these battles and struggles. And that's something that, oh my goodness, like I always have to remind myself of. And, the author's talking about 3 truths about secrets. And I think it's really good to talk about this because, if you do have a secret, first and foremost, you don't have to keep it. Sometimes it's like we want to hold on to it so tight, but again, it's not ours, it's God's already. So we have to release it to Him. Then also the second, he says, if you have a secret, it will damage you in your relationship. And knowing again that that's a consequence, and that if we don't allow God to be God and try to interfere, then that's going to be a battle that we keep ourselves and not handle to God, which He's supposed to handle for us. And then the third is saying, the minute you begin to deal with a secret, God will step in to help you, set you free, and lead you into a better life than you've ever known. And I think that's when we invite and allow us to be ourselves, and to invite God, have God invite people into our lives that will help us. Because I remember, when we came here, God has already put those people in place. Like, He already put all these people that will help us grow a relationship with Him, because that's what He wants for us. And if He has that plan for us to have a good marriage, to have good relationships that will thrive us, that will help us grow into the person that God wants us to be, He will set those people in place. But yeah, we have to remove all the barriers with Him and with the people so that He can do that. And that was something kind of, I guess, also that I'm taking away from today. It's just to be open and to allow ourselves sometimes to be uncomfortable, to be humbled, to ask for help, to remove masks, and to just simply be ourselves and
Yeah.
and remind ourselves who we are in God. And yeah, just that is very powerful for me today. Just that
That's
fact.
good.
So yeah.
One of the things I also looked at, I know we didn't get a chance to go through the entire chapters, but we want you guys to feel free to read up on it, because it's so much, when I tell you so much information that kind of relates to us with our everyday things that we're dealing with now. But one of the last things that I read in it is so much, and he said you have to learn how to become intimate. We don't all grow up in a world of intimacy where people are just very transparent, open, and honest with us about a lot of things. You have to learn how to be intimate with people. And that means being able to, first of all, you have to trust yourself, to know that even when you come in the company of others, that both of you have lives that you were living before you came in contact with each other. This is friendships and all. And any place that you cannot find yourself resting in a place called intimacy, that means allowing someone to see into the person that you are, that may be a question as to whether that's somewhere that you need to, kind of lay your hat at or whatever, because this is going to be a learning curve when y'all do come into fellowship with each other. There has to be a trust factor that's there. And we have to have something in common, because the Bible also said, he said, can two walk together except they agree? We have to have a place where we have things in common so where we can open up and share. And then there are going to be a lot of times when it may be something that you share with the individual. It is a growing thing for the other person. It's not like the person is taking what you're saying and trying to figure out, well, what's going on with them. No, they take it as an opportunity to grow themselves. Because I can't tell you how many times I come in the company of individuals, and it's helping me to grow. Being around my brother is something that's my biological brother, who I have done a little bit of life with, and now I'm on another side of a venture to where I'm doing another place of life, and we're having to become intimate with one another. So yesterday we were sitting down and just having conversation. I said, God, this is so cool. Being able to sit down with my brother, I'm learning so much more about him. He's learning so much about me. Somebody put my niece has moved back home, and they found pictures from my mother's house. And man, she's been posting those things with us. And I was like, oh my God. So when I got to Roger yesterday, I said, hold up, I got something to share with you. I said, look at this picture. And Roger said, where did y'all find that? And so I said, Roger, where was this picture at? And he said, I don't know, but something wrong with Daddy's hair. He was just kind of making jokes about little things. And, it's just that place of intimacy, which leads to other conversations that we may have one day. You have to open up that space in your heart, let people know that you're safe. And you just never know how they begin to start sharing. So I let him share, because I know he's going through the grief and loss, and I'm letting him tell stories, and I'm just laughing hard at him. And it makes me to come into relationship with couples. I'm getting a chance to see life after a mate has died, what that looks like. How cool is that? And get to see them walk through what grief and loss looks like. Intimacy, it can be built on so many different levels. You just never know where God is going to present that opportunity for you. So ladies, I say to you, be who you are, be unique, and evolve into that. The person that you're becoming now, some people may not recognize who you are right now, but use it as that's a compliment, because you've changed a whole lot. And it's like, God, this thing has been working for me all along. Allow me to stay in this place. That means I'm making some great decisions about the people I'm bringing into my space. The more intimate you become, it's an indicator that you have come into the space of some great people. So I pray that this book is really, this first chapter and the 7th chapter has been helping you guys. And Sabrina, I love the words that you've shared. I love the relationship that we have with one another. And those secrets are, what you don't know can hurt you. It really can, learning how to open up. So I'll let you have the final words, and we'll get ready to close out on this morning.
Perfect. Yeah, I think one thought that I just had was, how did Jesus deal with secrets with people? As I was just wondering, like, curious, like, what would he do if, I mean, he knew our deepest secrets, but he would not always go and be like, oh, you got something there, like, I just piqued you, so he was always like compassionate and learning to be graceful. That was one thing that I had to learn on my own journey, dealing with my own secrets. First of all, knowing that I had secrets, I was like, I thought I'd be that good person, but learning to have secrets, and that is just sometimes part of our lives, because God wants to grow us in that season. And again, just first of all, also forgiving ourselves for maybe the mistakes and letting go of all that resentment and guilt, etc., helps to get us into the person that you can be, and what you're talking about, just be the real you. And it takes layer upon layer to really be the person. And yes, you will become a different person that people don't recognize. But the cool part is, and I think everybody can probably agree, if you grow, like, people come new into your life, and there's such a fresh excitement that comes with that. And like, oh my goodness, I didn't know, like, this person is amazing. Like, they've been, so that's the really the fun part about just letting yourself be you, because the people that are meant to be in your life, they will come. And then also it allows you to, layer upon layer, maybe reveal secrets or work on these things. And especially in my marriage, that's been something as well that my husband and I've been talking about, with these layers, and like really getting to know each other, being there, having more intimate relationship, transparency. It's a great journey, and I'm so excited that we talked about actually this combination, because it goes hand in hand. And so, yeah, thank you so much. I had so much fun. I really enjoyed this today. And
nobody but God could have put those chapters together, because we didn't do that, y'all.
No.
We didn't do that. So, but would anybody like to have some words? We don't want to leave the day without you guys sharing anything. Does anybody have any comments or anything? Or maybe something you gained from today? Amen. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. I know we'll have time for takeaways tomorrow. Y'all should have a lot to talk about tomorrow, even if you go through the book and do a little bit more conversation, as you have some downtime today. This is a part of your intimate study to go in to talk to God about, Lord, am I becoming the best person that I should be? He closes on talking about tomorrow. Raising your relational IQ. He said, in what way, this is a homework for us, in what ways do you think being transparent will benefit you in your relationship? These are all things that will help us to grow. He said in the section titled, It Starts With You, he said, I listed several questions that will help you get to know yourself better. I encourage you to take some time to answer those questions now. In section titled, Invite Others into the Process, I suggest some questions to ask a trusted friend. Whom do you trust enough to answer these questions lovingly and honestly for you? 4, he said, think about a few people with whom you have extremely close relationships. Are their actions consistent with their words? Do you believe they know themselves well and allow themselves to be transparent with you? And in what way? In what specific ways do you need to become more straightforward and secure and sincere? What steps can you take to become more vulnerable or to develop skills needed for true transparency? What parts of yourself do you allow people to see? And what parts do you hide? Are you allowing your whole self to enter into a relationship? If not, why? Do you display fear in any of your relationships? Why? And what aspect of being vulnerable scares you most, even though you know it brings out best results in relationships? Will you allow this to hinder you? Well, those are some great questions to kind of ask ourselves and be ready for tomorrow's conversation, those takeaways. I can't wait to hear just the takeaway from this, and then also to bring our brother, Mr. Harlan, in on tomorrow with this conversation piece. So we want to say thank you so much, Ms. Sabrina. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for joining in with me this morning. And the rest of the messages, we'll be taking those things solo. and they'll be able to get deeper into it. But y'all come on, read your books, join in the fellowship with us, bring a comment or two of something that you thought of, and let's have some great dialogue. So until we meet again, you guys be blessed. Have a wonderful day. And we pray God's blessings over each one of us as we are starting this journey of the people factor. Most of all, getting to know us and the people that we love. You guys be blessed. We'll see you back again tomorrow morning. In Jesus' name. Amen.